Okay, you are live.
Good morning. Today we are opening a new text, a new system. Previously, over the past many months, we've been doing Flight of the Garuda, a teaching text in the Dzogchen line. And those of you who have been following along with me and doing each practice as it goes, excellent. Now, some of you may find somewhere in Dzogchen that it's just not going in, or you're stuck. Mahamudra goes to exactly the same thing as Dzogchen. It is no different, except method is set out in a clear, linear manner. This is the advantage of Mahamudra. The advantage of Dzogchen is that you jump into the middle of the deep end, at which point you either sink or you swim. If you swim, great. Dzogchen practitioner, doing good. If you sink, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Won't kill you. You just wasted a little time. So now I am going to offer the same kind of text in Mahamudra. The text itself is an end-stage text in Mahamudra, which means it's going to say the same things Dzogchen says. However, to make it clearer for you, each time I will also give you a teaching on how to practice Mahamudra. And although I will give you the overview each time, I will emphasize a certain part of it. Now, you need to know the begats on this. So I received this text, Songs of the 8 Mahasiddhas, the Dohas, from North India, from my teacher Wangdur Rinpoche, who himself received this back in Tibet at the old Zigurgompa, way out in the wilds of Kham, from Tuxi Rinpoche. Now, Tuxi Rinpoche was the person that Wangdur Rinpoche, my teacher, carried out of Tibet on his back. You see, he had received this amazing text from him. And when he came upon him while running out of Tibet with the Chinese not far behind them, Tuxi Rinpoche was big, fat, and old. He couldn't walk very well, kind of like me these days. So he couldn't walk over the mountains. He went very slowly until all the people had run on ahead. Rinpoche felt that since this was his teacher, he couldn't leave him behind. So he stayed back with them, but the Chinese were gaining on them strongly. This in the wild mountains, passes, places even a horse couldn't go. So finally someone took Rinpoche's pack, and Rinpoche picked up Tuxi Rinpoche on his back. Now, at that time, Wangdur Rinpoche was a little monk, about 5'1" tall and skinny. He was never tall. He just always looked very big sitting down because of his aura. And this skinny little guy carries this 6-foot-tall fat football player build on his back for a month over the mountains. They fell together. They got up together. They slid in the mud together. They slept in the rain together. And he got Tuxi Rinpoche all the way out into India. Later, after Wangdur Rinpoche had recovered from his hardships in the hospital with TB and other hardship illnesses, he went on pilgrimage and came to a cave, high above Solpema, that by chance was empty because the sadhu who'd been living in it had borrowed a lot of money from the local villagers and then vanished, so they figured he wasn't coming back, being as he owed money. So they said it was fine if Wangdo Rinpoche lived there, and so he did. Tuxi Rinpoche, who came and reestablished a monastery in Darjeeling, and it was going quite well, heard that Wangdo Rinpoche was alone, starving in a cave with no one to look after him, and sent someone to invite him to come to his monastery, but Wangdo Rinpoche said, "No, thank you. I'll stay here." He says those first 4 years where there was nobody there but him were absolutely wonderful practice times. Later, Tuxi Rinpoche sent another guy, told not to come back without him. Wangdo Rinpoche simply showed him to a cave and said, "You can stay there." The guy lasted a few weeks and went back without him. So this is the story of how this text came down to me. Wangdo Rinpoche gave it to me in pieces in India, but he gave the whole thing, complete with the full lung, once down on the peninsula in California, somewhere in somebody's big old garden. A week's teaching, straight through, several sessions a day. So that's the text we are opening today for both you and the those who are attending in person. They'll turn around when it gets interesting. Shuku kundo zongbo gomboyi dorji sempagarab dorji dang shire singi bardu shinlep de damab zantata tusum chi zogchen jupe lama la solo de dorji chang chi tilo naro dang marpa mila gompo tsatsapa na pupadang palden drupa sok chagchen lama namla solo deb o chen lama namla solo deb druchen lama namla solo deb kaginwari lama namla solo deb shakchen lama namla solo deb nyendu dang yundrun lama namla solo deb Alkon du jong dang yer me pa gun garab dorji jin trag pa jeti dang nisu me pa palamanam che tente chong. To begin this text, it's important that you understand something about Mahamudra. So this teaching, for which I actually have pretty good notes, was given to me up in the caves by Wangdo Rinpoche. He received it with Zigar Rinpoche from His Holiness the 16th Karmapa. And it's very beautiful, and it lays out the path with great clarity, the full path of Mahamudra, the 5 paths of Buddhism, Namgyal the yoga of the 4 paths. It's called 5 sometimes and 4 sometimes because number 5 is not actually a path. Number 5 is Milopelam, path of not doing, yoga of non-meditation. But we're not there yet. The text is, and talks from that perspective. We begin with Tsolam. Tsolam is path of accumulation, reciting texts, reading all the texts you can get your hands on, the sutras, the tantras, whatever you're authorized for, Chogchen and Dzogchen. Reading it, reciting the prayers and the manlam, making offerings to the 3 jewels in the form of all living beings of the 6 realms, offering incense in song, not song, S-O-N-G, song, S-A-N-G, offering tsok, filling the bird feeder, being kind to others with your body, speech, and mind. Generosity of body, give stuff away. Of speech, say things that cause rest and relaxation rather than stress among others. Of mind, give the benefit of the doubt, even when there's very little doubt. This is generosity of mind. That's allergies. All of this is necessary unless you have created, look, as you create Gewa, if you accumulate it, hoard it, keep it to yourself for benefit on your path, one moment of anger, a quick flash when somebody cuts you off in traffic, oops, you burn it up, all gone. If you take that Gewa and you dedicate it, you put it out there for the sake of all beings, you give it away, a moment of your personal anger will not affect it. If you place a drop of water in the ocean, that drop of water will not dry up until all the 7 seas have dried up. So as you do your path of accumulation, don't hoard. Give it away. When you have accumulated in your vicinity, when you give it away, it spreads outward from the center. So a lot of it tends to keep orbiting around you. Not all of it, some of it goes to the ends of the earth. But it's also around you. When enough of it has been created in your vicinity by you and others around you, because we're all in this together, you will become capable of the path of Zolam, path of focus, learning to use your mind as a tool rather than have it use you. Shinee is the first stage. Shi, peace, stillness. Ne, seat of, place of. Shinee, resting in stillness. This is done simply. And usually in the practice of Mahamudra, we combine Tsolam and Zolam. So you start working on Shinee while creating Gewa to the best of your ability. At some point, there's enough Gewa swirling around in and out of you that you become capable of Shinee. Without enough gewa, gewa is openness, relaxation, the opposite of stress. That's what it feels like. Stress is a hindrance. It tightens you up. You can't relax into shinee when you are stressed. So you keep creating more gewa and more gewa. Gewa de-stresses. When someone says a kind word to you, you feel happy and relaxed. When someone says an angry word to you, you feel tight and stressed. You can tell which one is gewa, can't you? So with enough relaxation, you are able to relax into shinee. Now, how do you do shinee? You align the channels of the body. I've taught this in Dzogchen. I'm not going to do the whole detail again. Basically, in a Dorji Chitron, Vajrasana, lotus position, or a half lotus position, or a Maitreya position seated in a chair, which is what some of us old farts use. You get yourself centered. Your knees are relatively together. They don't have to be stuck together if you got fat thighs like me. Your hands placed evenly and relaxed. Chin a little back. Now, here's where there's going to be a difference between Dzogchen and shinee. In Dzogchen, your gaze is pretty much straight ahead or slightly down. In shinee, it follows the line of your nose outward and down. It's much more down. This is because this is your speed control of thinking, and you want the thoughts slow. Now, shinee with an object, you put a little pebble right where your eyes naturally fall. And you rest your gaze on the pebble. And then with your gaze resting there, you may relax your point focus of gaze, or wait until it relaxes naturally. It will. And you rest there with your gaze and your attention on the pebble. When your mind seems to stray and wander off, thinking about thises and that's, bring it back. Use the tool of mindfulness. Return it to the pebble. Get good at this by practicing creation of gewa while doing this on the cushion. This will go much faster. So you combine those two paths. Do you understand? Any questions coming up?
Let's see. Can you discuss, they've given the Tibetan here, I'm going to do my Bizrid Po, mixing space and awareness.
No, not until next time.
Okay.
Right now, I'm going into detail about path of accumulation and path of focus. Once it has become easy for you to retain your attention on the pebble without it wandering, and this is done by relaxing sufficiently, not by tightening it down, you may simply remove the pebble and rest in stillness without an object. This is the first stage of Mahamudra. You see, Mahamudra is broken down into do this first, then this, then this, then this, then this, whereas Dzogchen is not. Once you can rest in shinee without an object, you need to become very clear on what is shi, ne, what is nipa, stillness, and what is jewa, moving, and what is rigpa, the seer who sees stillness and moving. As you become clear on these three things, they all go to emptiness. And you enter the path of seeing with the moving stillness yoga, lapdong, which is where the moving thoughts and the infinite open awareness without thoughts, dharmakaya without thoughts. The moving understands the stillness, and the stillness recognizes the moving is not separate from itself, and they become one in emptiness. Here begins the path of meditation with one taste, Rochik Naljor. In one taste yoga, external phenomena are recognized as not separate from the thoughts about them. There is nothing out there. There's only what you think is out there as far as you're concerned. Mind is not separate from its thoughts. And the seer is not separate from the seen. This is the practice of Rangrik. And when that is complete, it matures into Milopelam. This is the path of not doing non-meditation. That's an overview with details today on how to practice Solam and the beginnings of Zolam. The rest is just an overview. We'll go into more details on how shinee matures with the next part of the text. Jagar ke du do, hapo ke du do, hazete chawe chakichin, po menga kwal zong chu kan droma la chak salo, tenjik chang we ye shidro e chen la tsak salo. In Sanskrit, Doha Shana Mahamudra Ubashida Shah. In Tibetan, as I read it, treasures of the oral instructions of Mahamudra, we bow down to the glorious Vajra Dakinis. We bow down to the unborn primordial awareness. From the true essence of the three jewels. First, while resting in the natural state, with your channels in alignment, as I just explained, in a state of completely relaxation, without doing anything at all. Recognize the three ku, chuku, longku, truku. This is Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. When my teacher first taught me these words, chuku, longku, truku, I didn't learn them from Sanskrit. One day he said to me, we were sitting in his little shack, his cave, and he said, you see that infinite openness that has never moved and never will? That utter stillness beyond concept, vast and unknowable, having not even locations such as center or edge. That infinite vastness which is awake and aware, you see that? I said, yeah. He said, we call that chuku. Cool, I learned a new word in Tibetan, chuku. That's what you call that. Okay. He said, now you notice that it's not just a big dead old nuttin'. It's alive. It is able to think, feel, and perceive. So yeah. So well, we call that ableness, that aliveness. Lonku. Cool, now I got another word, lonku. That's the innate vitality of chuku. I get it, yeah, I see that. And then you see all those thoughts that are happening, you're having some right now. So yeah, and you can see colors, you have perceptions. Yeah, he says, we call that truku. I said, oh, okay. I see that. He says, you do notice they're the same thing I'm pointing at. I said, yeah. He says, okay, well, you learned some new words today. It was not for years. I thought they were completely ordinary things that, of course, one saw in meditation. One could see it was obviously there. Chuku, lonku, and truku. It wasn't until many years later that an actual, Pukka translator, school-taught translator, actually told me that those words were the highfalutin Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. I had no idea they were anything fancy. I thought they were just new Tibetan words that described Chuku, Lonku, and Truku. I think that's a nice way to learn them. You try it that way. So rest yourself in order to hear these teachings properly, with channels in alignment, with gaze soft. With awareness of infinite spacious naturalness, vital and alive and continuously manifesting as thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, all of which is no thing in nowhere, the play of the Dharmakaya. Rest in that natural state of awareness without buggering it up with anything. It's who you've always been. That's the mood from which to listen to these texts. Now, the first text, these are poems of realization written by different siddhas, and the first one is Saraha. You can find the story of Saraha in Masters of Enchantment, which has beautiful art and is a bit pricey, or in Buddha's Lions, which also has nice art, but it doesn't reproduce very well on account of it's in red. It has stories of Saraha, different images. He was an arrow maker, the son of a Dakini, born a Brahmin. So in this image, he's with his consort. In this image, Saraha, where are you? This is why it's more expensive. The images are in color. That's Saraha. Yeah. Arrow maker. You see, there is a meditation done with archery. Out in North Carolina, I taught it to a few of you. How you identify yourself with the bow, the arrow, and the target. And then you let go. And of course, the arrow goes exactly to the bullseye because that's who it is. Wrong, Rick. Done with a bow and arrow. Lovely practice. If I'm somewhere out that there's an archery range with you guys somewhere, I'll teach it again. I learned that from Lama Thupten, not Lama Thupten Yeshi, Lama Thupten of Matrogampa in Ladakh, who I stayed with one summer. He had been a master of it. In fact, very proud, framed on his wall, was a single National Geographic cover with a picture of him in full regalia shooting an arrow into the sun. that he had framed and put up because he thought it was really cool. I thought so too. I've always been looking for a copy of that old Ladakh National Geographic, and it is pre-1970. But I don't know exactly when. If anybody finds it, I'd love that picture to put up on my altar. Anyway, back to Saraha. Bit of background so you understand. When we go into his Song of Realization, you understand a bit of his process to go there. And as we go through the different siddhas, you'll find certain similarities and certain differences in their processes. This is very useful to notice. There's not only one right way. All of you who worry about whether you're doing it right. When I was a paramedic, one of the things you learn is you need to make a decision now. It doesn't have to be the absolute best decision, just within the ballpark of a workable decision. But time is of the essence. So you stop worrying about if you're getting it exactly right. As long as you get it within reasonable working possibilities. You're going to find that's true of Dharma practice too. Saraha was born in a Brahmin family. Now, if you don't know anything about Brahmin culture, it is very stratified, caste-oriented, rule-abiding. In that culture, meat never passes the lips. Milk does. They're not vegan. Eggs don't. Eggs are considered a form of meat. Cheese does. You can eat cheese, milk, yogurt, but no meat, no eggs. Very strict. When I had a Losar party with a table in the back of momos for the Tibetans, all the Brahmins went and hid under my kitchen table and ate momos. It's supposed to be very strict and very caste stratified. A Brahmin can only marry a Brahmin, yada, yada, yada. And the rules and the ceremonies, it's very powerful and strong. And you have to do it that way. And living this very strict life where you get married at this age and you do this at this age is obligatory as a Brahmin. No choices. It's like being on a train rather than driving a car yourself. So he's born into this, but his mother is a realized Dakini, not his father. And so she teaches him Buddhism at night. And he learns Brahmin from his ceremonies from his father in the daytime. And he develops the profession, which had been his mother's profession, as an arrow maker. And so he makes arrows and sells them, which is an acceptable thing for a Brahmin, as long as he's not working with leather or shoes or cleaning things. They're not allowed to do that. Other castes do that for them. Brahmins are descended from the Aryans, the invading tribe that came through and enslaved the Dravidians as outcasts, who were darker, and the natives to India. Getting some context here. It's racial, the caste system. Buddhism did not keep the caste system. So he doesn't necessarily believe in this, but he's doing lip service to his family duties in the daytime and practicing Buddhism at night and hanging out in the pub, drinking like a fish with all the low-caste folks. This is a big no-no. You never even enter a room with a low-caste person. You don't drink with a low-caste person. You only socialize with your own caste. I had a big intercaste party. That was where the Brahmins were with the momos under the kitchen table. And I had every caste, even the shoemaker, up there. First time it ever happened in Sopema. Big picture of Gandhi on the wall, big picture of Dalai Lama on the wall. Take it or leave it. Since I had said I was making the mythical pizza that people had only seen in movies. And all were very curious about this thing that rich people eat in movies. They all wanted to come anyway for the pizza. Because Brahmins can eat pizza. But they ate the momos. Getting a picture of his context, the culture he's out of. Now, Buddhist culture, some people eat meat, some people are vegetarian. It's a pretty wild and woolly, you do it the way you do it. It isn't that rule-oriented, although at times they have attempted to impose rules upon it. That's Vinaya for monks. Us yogis, with the hair and the stripy zens, we don't do no rules, not like that. But we are extremely aware of Gewa and Digpa. Not the rules about them, but how they work. You have to either follow the rules or understand the context, your choice. So Saraha hangs out in the pub and drinks like a fish. And all the Brahmins get upset about this, because he's a pretty high mucky muck. His father's like a local king. Anyway, all the Brahmins go off to the big king in the city. And they say, you got to do something about this Saraha. He's drinking like a fish. He's in the pub with the low-caste women all the time. Come on, you got to do something. So the king calls Saraha to him and says, there's this problem, people are telling me you're drinking. Saraha looks him right in the eye and says, I don't drink. And the Brahmins say, yes, he does. We've all seen him staggering home from the pub. And he says, look, if I drink, boil some lead. Boil a crucible of lead. I'll drink the lead. If I drink, I will be burned. If I don't drink, I will be fine. So he takes a crucible of boiling lead and drinks it down like chugging a pint. And then he shows his mouth. Healthy tissue. And the king says, I guess he doesn't drink. And the Brahmin says, yes, he does. We've seen him. We've all seen him drink. You've got like 50 witnesses here that have seen him both drinking and drunk. Lots of times. And Saraha says, I don't drink. Look, get a scale. I'll get on one side and you can put anything you want on the other side. The heavier doesn't drink. So he gets on it's a balance scale like this, one for weighing like big sacks of grain. And he sits on one side and they start piling stuff on the other side. And big iron ingots and 4 big guys hanging off the edges. And they still can't make his go up. And theirs go down. He's still heavier. He says, see, I don't drink. And the Brahmins go, yes, he does, man. We swear. We've been seeing him drink. He really does drink. And he says, look, there's a big tank over there where water is stored. Let me and who says I drink jump in together. The one that doesn't drink will float, and the one that drinks will sink. And so one very fine high Brahmin who has followed the rules forever. If you ever can get a hold of a piece of flesh from a 7 times born Brahmin, it's really good for your health because of the way they follow rules. Anybody who's done it for 7 lives, if they happen to die around you, see if you can get a piece. That's just an aside. Rinpoche had a piece once he shared with me. A lot of power in following the rules like that. But it's only power. It's easy to get power. Power's no biggie. Enlightenment is harder. and worth more. Anyway, he jumps in the tank with this highfalutin Brahmin, and he floats and the Brahmin sinks. So eventually they fish the half-drowned Brahmin out of the water, and he gets out dripping wet and says, "See, I don't drink." And everybody says, he drinks, we've seen him drink. And the king says, look, if he can drink molten lead, do that with a scale, and float in water, who cares if he drinks? So that kind of resolved that issue. Then later he went home, and he took now about this point, he's like in his late 20s, early 30s, somewhere in that age, fully mature. And he went home and he took a 15-year-old low-caste servant girl as his companion. I don't think Brahmas were allowed to marry them, but he took her as his companion. And that was enough askance that they had to leave. And he went with her off onto a mountain. Not the top of a mountain, but part way up, and he had a little hermitage, and she lived with him and cared for him, and he practiced meditation. Now, this guy's already a siddha, which really isn't that hard to become. There's tricks to it. Even the Brahmins know those tricks. That's why if you eat a 7 times born Brahmin, it's good for you. So, okay, he's a siddha, but he knows he hasn't gotten all the way, so he sits in his hermitage and meditates, and he sends her out to beg in town and bring home food. And living a simple and quite comfortable life as such. Couple of sadhus. The thing is, she's actually a dakini. So one day, which is how come he recognized that, dakini means she actually was enlightened, born that way. Skywalker. Yes, she had experiences in the world as one does, but she never lost track of what she was, who she was, of the totality of herself through birth and life, in spite of having experiences. Kandroma. The male version is called Pawo, Daka. Pawopu. They're really good if you find one. Rare, but very fine. Oh, I knew a meditating old nun who had one. He was lovely. But after a time, he made some strange choices and forgot who he was. I saw him last year. He still hasn't remembered who he is. Too bad, a good poem. Went far and then backed up. A reminiscence. You don't need that. So one day he sat down to meditate there. And he said to his Khandro, look, make me, it's summer now, so we've got lots of yogurt. Make me a raita of muli, that's the long white radishes, and yogurt. And let me know when lunch is ready, and we'll have that for lunch together, because we've got those things. And she says, okay, that sounds good, I'll make that. So he sat down to meditate, and after a couple of hours, when lunch was ready, she went in, and he's tranced out. He's not reacting, you know. Honey, you in there? So she eats her lunch. Then she eats his lunch. 12 years. He sits there without moving or waking up, in shinee, resting in stillness. Now, the story doesn't say, because the stories were written down by guys, it doesn't say if she dusted him or put a dust cloth over the top. If it was written down by a woman, that would have been put in. However, she went on with her life quite happily, begged for food, ate the food, lived in the hermitage, checked in on him occasionally. 12 years later, more or less, in the middle of winter. "Ah, that was a nice session. Where's that raita you were making for me?" She's like, "Husband, you've been sitting there for 12 years. It's winter now. There's no yogurt in the winter. You don't get milk in the winter, and the radishes aren't up yet." Says, "Oh my, really, 12 years? I'd guess I better just go up the mountain to a hermitage and continue." She's like, "Husband, you sat there for 12 years in Shinee, and you're still thinking about radishes and yogurt? How is this going to be different higher up a mountain?" She's got a point. This is where his shinee matured to lactong, where he chose to mature his shinee to lactong. He had the shinee good. He had the magic powers coming and going. But he didn't have lactong yet. This is where he began to practice the yoga of dancing stillness instead of shinee without an object. Do you see his path? How it went from here to there. How the siddhas aren't worth diddly squat. The siddhis, the magic. Don't go chasing those. And if they happen, keep them quiet. Otherwise, people will follow you around. You'll never get any peace. No, you don't want that. It's like if you like sex, you think prostitution might be fun, but if you give it a try for a while, you find out it isn't. In the same way, you think being a siddha and having everybody go woo-woo at you might be fun, and if you give it a try for a while, it really isn't. Been there, done that. So you get a picture of now who's speaking here. Yes? And so the songs. Gyudang mi gyudang mi gyuba, jitango dango me nang trong dang. Tam che malu non ke rang shin le, nunam kutu nam yang. Joba me. Can you run and get my reading glasses from the table? I forgot them.
I can't.
Should be 2 pairs there. A strong one and a weak one. Naunke shini rabjo chang. Namke ngobo siryang grupa me. Yo dang me dang yo men me min dang de le zandu nga shun pe yu le de tar nam ge sem dang chuni la ta de kung je yo pa ma inte ta de mingo lobor tag pa tam den im exingiti tegnunan. See if it helps. No, strong ones. There. Chonam tam che rangi semyente semle mato choji 도참매 강갱어 내 셈에 토파이 두숨여외 동바담바니 주기자마 토세용뚝탁 대양록배 주자마인티 너네란직 keperanjinno de dene tamdu yuminte. As the moving and unmoving, shaking and unshaking phenomena, as things and non-things are apparent and empty, all of them without any exception, other than the nature of space, never possess the aspect of shaking in any case. Recognize the knower of what is known, the doer and not doer, the moving and not moving, like this. Seeing both real and unreal appearance, all of it without exception, self-arising in infinite space, in all times and outside of time, forever unwavering. Even by naming space, you cannot find the infinite sky space existing in any specific place. Being and not being, is and isn't, aren't. And one transcends all concepts of form. The infinite mind, the sky, rests in the Dharmata, not even a shred of independent existence. Thus all names are instantly recognized as empty words, lies without substance and meaning. All concepts, all occurrence, all phenomena, all dharmas are clearly seen as projections of one's own mind. All phenomena are one's own mind. Other than mind, not a sole phenomena such as a particle of matter exists. One who realizes the mind as not truly existent from the very beginning achieves the excellent thought of the victorious ones of the three times. See, I have to flip about because the Tibetan is over there. And the English is over here. This is the realization of all the Buddhas of the three times. Flip, flip. Jodu me pasu kyang go ba me gate dagpo Iona noroyo de na dang me de la sigjio semyo gyurne chokun yorikte semme pale choshik su ito semdang chusu nangwa tamchini Talmaringye Tsulkan Gangnang me adusum maki makagpe jipa Deni shanda jurba me pani rang shinde wa chimbo na lu yin de chinang pa tam che chu ki ku ro pa ro a sim kim sim che nam ni sang chi ni du che la kun Yene chokinang tag pechu kun rebong wadang tsung ne pasim ken geni matupa krobar tanpani. Even the beautiful ornament of the Dharma is itself a creation, no different from any other phenomena. This innate original natural state, in which this very teaching itself has no true existence. There is no one to not understand the unknowable. If self exists, error exists. If no self, then who knows this? Who's writing this? Then the very existence of mind gives rise to all manner of impertinent phenomena. The Dharma casket, the totality of it, is entirely created by mind. No adverse phenomena other than it exists. Being spontaneously emerged from the beginning, its suchness cannot be pointed out. Being inexpressible, none can fathom it. If there is an owner, there is a fault, my mind. How could it be for that which is ownerless from the beginning? If mind exists, all phenomena are liable to exist. In the absence of mind, who will notice the phenomena? Who will see it? All appearance as mind and matters cannot be found. When searched as the searcher himself does not exist. What we're looking at here. We walk through life with the illusion of a continuity of self that existed yesterday, does exist now, and will exist tomorrow. And we believe it's real. And the moment you believe that there really is a thing there, a feeler of the feelings, separate from the feelings themselves. A thinker of the thoughts, not the thoughts, but a possessor or a thinker of the thoughts. A perceiver of the perceptions. Separate, over here, looking at the perceptions over there. This error of duality is the original error. The original oops. We don't have an original sin in Buddhism. You didn't do it on purpose. You simply misperceived something. In every moment, you misperceive something. You think there is some kind of lasting, existing internal you, separate from your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. Thoughts, feelings, and sensations, rather say, since a perception is a clump of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. You see colors. You interpret it as this and that. You have feelings about your interpretation and the story you're telling yourself. And you feel real because of that. Except, oops, you haven't noticed. As the karma unravels throughout the entire universe, periodically here and there, clumps are formed. Clumps of perception. And each clump, which exists only for a very moment in time, before it becomes a different clump sliding and changing, thinks it's itself, it thinks it's having thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, not realizing that all it is a momentary intersection of thoughts, feelings, and sensations, creating a perception, creating a perceiver, and separating the two, which is the oops. This is the point here. I'm not saying you aren't. I'm saying you are not more than that, other than that. Are there questions so far?
Let's see. One of the Spanish viewers asks, are these teachings only for Mahamudra practitioners or also for Dzogchen practitioners?
They're for everybody. The instructions on how to that I give at the beginning are for Mahamudra practitioners. But this text is well past where Dzogchen and Chogchen become the same thing. Other questions?
If I am generally more into Dzogchen and Trekchen, will this teaching still benefit me or will it just confuse me?
It will benefit you because this poetry written by the great Siddhas is as easily Dzogchen poetry as it is Chogchen poetry. For here in end stage, there is no difference between the two. Same thing, Dzogchen, Chogchen. This poetry is in the path of not doing milopelam, all of it. So as such, there is no point of confusion. Everybody goes to milopelam. Dzogchen just starts there, except you can't, because you can't figure out how to not do your practice while doing your practice. But eventually, after a few rushens, you'll get it. Next question.
I can only refer to still mind as a presence because I feel something there but can't see it or place it anywhere. Is that a good concept?
There are no good concepts. Whatever you want to refer to it as is fine. The presence that you feel is not real. It is an interaction of the three jewels. Phenomena, interacting with aliveness, vitality, presence, awareness, interacting with infinite, vast openness, and they're not separate. So there is no actual interaction. Next.
While doing shinee, what's the other thing you do simultaneously for gewa?
Read books on the Dharma. Recite monlam and mantra. Make ceremonies. Practice generosity of body, speech, and mind all the time. Practice the 6 paramitas for the sake of others, and always dedicate the merit. Next question. These are actually quite easy and nice questions. Keep going as long as we've got them.
Okay. Who are the mirror dakinis?
I need to know the context of that quote. Next one.
Would Nundro fall under Solam, the path of accumulation?
Yes, it would. When you offer mandalas, you you create gewa. When you do prostrations, you create gewa. All of these, Vajrasattva, although designed to remove digpa, remove stress, tightness, anti-relaxation, also at the same time creates gewa, openness of awareness. Next question.
I am doing Dzogchen right now. I can do Trekshin, but I have ADHD and I find it hard to maintain it without getting distracted. Can I do shinee and Dzogchen, or should I switch to Mahamudra?
No. With ADHD, you're much better off in Dzogchen. Shinee will be more difficult for you prior to Trultra Naljor. It's only once there is no distraction. That is, the distraction can occur all at once. It doesn't bother the stillness in the least. And the stillness is always present and doesn't bother the thinking in the least. That's early on with Dzogchen and later on with Mahamudra. And you're going to have to start there with ADHD because you're not going to stop thinking. So you better learn to see through the thoughts and see nature of mind, Tawa, while thinking. Next question.
We had the earlier question about mixing space and awareness, or did you address that one already?
So read me the question.
Can you discuss Srepo? I'm hoping I have the phonetics correct. Mixing space and awareness. This is mentioned in Mahamudra Chud.
Yes. So mixing space and awareness is simply, once you realize that your awareness is created by what it's aware of, just as your awareness is continually creating what it's aware of, when you settle your awareness into being aware of space, of stillness, your awareness is stillness because it is made by what it makes. Next.
Let's see. So is the aren't that you described recognizing or resting into all three isn't, aren't all at once?
Yes, but let go of the words. And then let go of the feeling it gives you. And then realize that the perceiver of this is itself nothing other than the perception. Then yes, do that. Next.
And that's all we have up
Okay.
to this point.
Let's go a little further. Oh my, these are dirty. And I seem to have broken an earpiece off them. No wonder they weren't hanging straight. Shit happens. Manimba Rindalo Zer Kunyab Khan Mingmenam La Pun Munba Tadu Sala Sekewa Kunla Chap Gyurka Monda La Deni Jing Tu Ring Goa Samge Semme Matokpa Tangde Semge Semni Rabtu Ching Jeta Ungi Lappe Yonwa Dang Me Duka Jepata Zinam Song Don Shin Jinpai Kebo Dong Me Dong Na Ba Jing Ye Ka Ching Lo Yi Be Ba Mong Nam Ching Nang Po Kyam Du Jang Ne Gan Du Tsao Ka Tsing Yue Dag La Nun Ge Song Ka Tsing Sawa Ba Bor Ne Lo Dam Break Je Tar Je Kang Sama Tsu Toro. Here we are. If the mind exists, all phenomena are liable to exist. In the absence of mind, who will realize phenomena? All appearance as the mind and matter cannot be found when searched, as the searcher himself does not exist. This doesn't mean you're going to vanish. Don't try to crawl up your own asshole and be gone. This simply means that in each moment, both you create the moment by your descriptions of it, and it creates the you which is in response to that. There is no separation there. Doesn't mean we're all one. It means there is no separation between the perceiver and the perceptions. The non-existent three times are the absence of production and cessation. This is also known as the fourth time. That which does not transform into other possesses the essential nature of great bliss. Hence all appearances are dharmakaya. Sentient beings are Buddhas by themselves. The entire compositional actions are dharma dhatu from the very beginning. All imputed phenomena are similar to the horns of a rabbit. I bought Rinpoche a stuffed jackalope once. It really bothered him. He had to put a pillowcase over it. It was fun to tease him with cultural stuff. He teased me with enough cultural stuff. Do you understand this? Time is a construct. We talk about the time-space phenomena. It is a construct of mind, just as are languages, including the language called mathematics. You can describe many things in languages. In some languages, there are things you can't describe. Attempting to explain the workings of a nuclear power plant in Tibetan is futile. In a culture that doesn't even have a word for fiction, many things cannot be explained. The culture is changing now. The world got in. All phenomena is made by mind. This includes the time-space continuum. When we say the fourth time, we are talking about outside of time. Neither the past, the present, nor the future. In the fourth time, all sentient beings of the three realms, the realm of form, the realm of desire, and the formless realm, are all Buddhas of the three times, past, present, and future. And there is no separation between sentient beings and Buddhas. So when you feed the birds, you're actually feeding a whole flock of little Buddhas. From the perspective beyond time, we have all always been enlightened. It is only within the time-space continuum, under the belief that we must occupy and can occupy only a single point there, that you experience things like progression. It's not real. You made it up. This is why we say there is no separation between the path and the fruition. Living beings are confused by not realizing suchness. Oh, the sun rays pervade everywhere in the cloudless sky. Yet the darkness always appears to those who are blind. In the same way, through the spontaneously emerged, nature pervades all and always has. Yet it is as far from the ignorance as the sky is from the earth. Since the sentient beings don't realize non-existence of mind, they think they are. I think I am, therefore I am. To paraphrase Socrates. The mind itself is bound by the believed in mind. The mind created by your thoughts of what you think the mind is constrain your mind. They limit you. They're what stuck you in a single point in the time-space continuum. as the insane ones who are haunted by ghosts, powerless and aimlessly undergoing suffering. If you see a madman walking down the street, arguing with his hallucinations and occasionally taking a swing at him, I've seen that across the street, walking by. He forgot to put an earbud in his ear and fake it like he was on the phone. Or he was too far gone to think of that. Is that not what we see when we look at our friends and relations? When we look at ourselves? Everyone walking down the street arguing with their hallucinations and occasionally taking a swing at them. Is that not what we do in life? And we're so sure it's real. And you know where it comes from? Believing your thoughts. I have a bumper sticker on my car, don't believe everything you think. And yet even people who have been practicing Dzogchen for years write to me about a thought clump that's bothering them. It's a thought. What do you want me to say in the email? Half my emails go back saying that's a set of thoughts. Those are Nam Talk. After I get this 2-page thing. Yeah, those are Nam Talk. What am I going to say? They are. Please notice your own. You can't stop believing them by simply telling yourself these aren't real, because these thoughts aren't real. What is that? It's a thought too. You see? So that won't work. It's like you're going like building a tower. It's not going to get you anywhere. So instead of telling yourself all these stupid thoughts aren't true, look at them, look right at them and see what they're made of. Now, in this now, not the next one, right now, whatever you're thinking in this very moment, whatever you're thinking in this very moment, look right at it. See what it's made of while not disturbing your thinking it. It's transparent. Every thought you think is transparent. You couldn't make an opaque one if you wanted to. I've done this 1,000 times. See the pumpkin? Visualize a pumpkin in my hands. Big old pumpkin. Holding it between my hands. You see the pumpkin? Visualize it as solid and opaque as you can. See, you can see me making faces right through the pumpkin. Thoughts are transparent. Look right through them at the sky-like nature of mind. It's always there. It's where the thoughts be happening. Don't try to believe your thoughts aren't real. That's no more use than believing they are real. You're not going to get any higher doing this. Look right at them. Right while you're thinking them. Likewise, the people who are haunted by the great ghost of concepts, of the clinging of object. I'm here. That's out there. I'm me. I perform the verb of seeing that which exists whether I'm looking at it or not. Not exactly the way I think it does. Those are thoughts. You see, that very action of separation, of creating duality in each moment, is what confuses you. Haunted by the great ghost of concepts of the clinging of object, solely experience suffering in vain. The ignorant are bound by the discrimination of mind. Keeping the owner in house, they search elsewhere. This refers to a parable of the thief in the empty house. A thief gets into a house and he's going to steal stuff, and he's hidden in a closet, and you start searching the neighborhood for the thief. Or it's an empty house and the thief gets in, but he has nothing to steal because the house is empty. So the thief has no benefit and the owner has no loss. It's a Dzogchen analogy, but it runs here in Dzogchen too. So people grasp their own reflections as being objects. Or they try to become enlightened by picking the leaves and leaving the root. This also refers to a parable of a great tree. If you want to get all the leaves off, you could try picking them off one by one with a ladder, but by the time you finished one side and started on the other, they'd be growing back. Or you could strip the bark a ring around the tree and they'd all fall off. A lot of people practicing misunderstand the nature of practice and how it works in such a way that they're trying to pick all the leaves off rather than cutting the root. The root is duality. Are there questions here?
Yes.
Give me a few.
What does it mean when I see myself as a certain yidam regardless of whatever practice I'm doing? Even when practicing another yidam or while I am sitting on the cushion?
Means you've done a lot of yidam practice on that yidam and should probably continue until you actualize it. Why change yidams if it's working? Next question.
Okay, just I'm sorry, I had a question disappear on me. Okay. One of those sessions. One of our Spanish viewers asks, by living in no duality, how would you know that you are not hurting others?
But how do you know if you stuck your right hand in a flame? It's obvious. Without duality, who would hurt who? What? It's reminding me of a story. Someone was speaking to a Dzogchen yogi saying, you mean if I were an accomplished Dzogchen yogi, I could kill and eat a sheep? And the yogi said, if you were an accomplished Dzogchen yogi, it would not occur to you to kill and eat a sheep. Next question.
Okay. If there is no difference between perceiver and perceptions, why doesn't that automatically mean that we are all one, everything is perceived?
Why would it mean that? As easily mean we are all none and nothing is perceived. I'm not sure I follow your logic. Next question.
Okay. Earlier you were talking about chondromas and powwows knowing their own nature.
Mm-hmm.
How does one know if one is a chondroma or powwow?
One knows the totality of oneself. One isn't real. Chondromas and powwows, they aren't real. And they know it. You aren't real either, but you don't know it. Well, that's the only difference. Next question.
Sometimes just before waking up, I can see how the dream dissolves in my experience of body, but just casually. How can I develop stability on this awareness, and can it help me?
Pay attention to that as it's happening. But don't stick it in a girdle after you're awake. Don't try to define it or make something out of it. Just pay attention to it while it's happening in dream yoga. Next question. The idea is while, not after.
How are you sure you have recognized your true nature of mind? How can you spot that gap between thoughts and be sure you're not trapped in any kind of concept?
You would know if it were the case. It's obvious. Okay, look, you're assuming thoughts will still happen. Life occurs. If you fall off a cliff, you'll scream. Nothing changes. Everything changes. There's an obviousness to it. That does not preclude life. For Sambhogakaya pervades Nirmanakaya and manifests, they manifest as Nirmanakaya. You can't take them apart. If you're asking how would you know, then you don't. That question is recognized while it's arising as a nam-talk, and as such has neither substance nor duration. This is true of all nam-talk, including the how would I know nam-talk. Why would you believe that one and not this one? They're made of the same thing. You who asked me this question, continue to watch them arise and vanish the way they do without duration. Like writing on water, the making of the mark and the dissolving of the mark is the same. Like writing in air with your finger. watch this happen while it happens, including thoughts such as, am I doing it right? How will I know? Am I fooling myself? I've got it. Oh yes, this is absolutely correct. I see it now for sure. See all of these? What's the same about them all? Nam talk. Don't believe everything you think. Next question.
It's sort of related to the previous. If you're experiencing the feeling of your mind being stuck somehow, is that sensation a creation of the mind?
Well, yes, of course. But it's nonetheless what you're experiencing. If it bothers you, and simply looking at the thoughts as they arise is ineffective at this time, then grab a method. Go do some Vajrasattva, inner body Rushen, the Hongs of the Dzogchen Rushen, prostrations from Nundro, until you feel better. You see, it is fastest and best and highest if you can just, whatever happens, regardless of whether it's a feeling of being stuck or an explanation of the feeling that says it feels like it's stuck, made out of thought, whatever it is, it's transparent. Look through it at nature of mind. Identify yourself as the innate vitality of awareness. See both the arising phenomena and the stillness and vastness of the Dharmakaya as the same thing, not separate from the awareness, which is you, and rest there. That's fastest. Gets you through any stuck, if it's working for you today. If by some chance you can't do that today, yeah, shit happens. You get stressed. You don't have enough gewa around you today because you're all stressed out because shit happened. Okay, then this is not the day for that practice. Let's do either a yidam practice or a purification practice or some other practice until you feel better and can do that practice. You see? Next question.
What happens if Dzogchen feeds the ego?
Why would it do that if then it's not being done properly? If Dzogchen makes you proud to be a great Dzogchenpa, you're having a serious oops. And all these oops come back to the duality of thinking there's a you and believing what it thinks about itself. Oops. Go fix that. Next question.
Since mind can be both motion and stillness, is this a sign neither motion nor stillness is its absolute nature?
Neither, neither, nor both. You keep trying to get it to fit into a box. There ain't no box big enough, not nowhere. Leave it free. Stop trying to conceptualize Mahamudra and Maha'ati. They don't fit. The thoughts, the words go so far, and then they point. Do I have a bell back there that I can't reach? Over back there in the blue.
I think so.
Yes, in the blue.
Yes, there is a
Just
bell.
hand me that. Okay. This is a bell. This is a finger. The finger is pointing at the bell. The finger won't ring. No matter how much the finger points at the bell, and no matter how much I shake the finger, it won't ring. The bell rings. In light of that, all of my words point. Don't try to eat the finger. Look where it's pointing. Capiche? One more question and then I grow tired.
Okay. You mentioned the homes of Rushin. Can you explain more?
There is a practice called the Rushin of speech in which one works with the seed syllable hung. It is one that I am willing to teach online, and I have in the past. I don't know if it's up on the website. If not, perhaps someone would put it up there for those who want to sign up, and when we get 50 people, we'll schedule it. It's a set of practices working with the seed syllable hung. One more question.
Okay. It's not a question, but more of a comment. People who have gone out to the publisher's website for today's text. It's an Indian website, so it's not necessarily accepting all forms of credit cards. So just wanted to mention that we included the contact information for the publisher in one of the images.
If you need to phone them, they'll probably speak English or find someone who can. But be aware of the time differential and phone them during business hours in India. Middle of the night here in California, and see where it is from where you are. Since it's published in India, they would be delighted to sell it to you, but you may have to figure out what it takes in the way of credit cards and borrow one from a friend. Can't help you there. Lilith says it's on Amazon.
Oh, good.
So, okay, look for it on Amazon. That might make it easier for you to purchase it if you have an account there.
And several independent booksellers she's adding as well. So
Okay,
try
so
other
it's
booksellers'
you can find
sites.
it someplace. I didn't purchase it. It was given to me as a gift because people knew that I was translating this text myself. And as you can see, rough drafts. I'm working from both my translation and this translation because in a couple of instances I think this obtusifies a bit. And you know I don't like obtusification. No, we're past that. We did that one. Okay, that's where we are. Just noting for next time because I think I'm going to take a few questions and then, go take a nap.
So, more questions?
Yes, one more if they've got a good one or two.
Okay.
There's still a little bit of me left. I'm old, I tire easy.
Is it correct that all experiences, inner and outer, are noun talk?
There are also feelings. Feelings are not Nam talk, they're feelings. They ride Nam talk, But Namtalk is discursive thoughts, so no, you can't say that all inner and outer experiences. Some are sensations, like an itch. It's only when you interpret the sensation as an itch, you give it the word itch, and that makes you need to scratch it. You think about itches and then you find one, right? So, I shouldn't have done that.
Oh.
You have sensations, feelings, and discursive thoughts. There are such things as non-discursive thoughts. For example, I was in a new place once. Terry, if you're out there, you're going to remember this. And right where the previous place I'd stayed had the bathroom, this place had a door with a set of stairs going down into a little meditation room. Well, I wake up in the middle of the night and I don't know where I am. So I open the door that's where the bathroom was last time and I step through. In the moment I find myself airborne, I have a non-discursive thought. Oh shit. Oops. There's no discursiveness. It's not making an edifice. It's just a sort of an oh fuck. It's not even in words. That's a thought, but it's not a discursive thought. That's a numb. It doesn't have talk. Now, once I hit the ground, I begin to have discursive thoughts like, oh fuck, now what have I done to myself? Did I break anything? Now my thoughts are beginning to stick together and make stories. But while airborne, no story. Just a sort of a not even in words, oh fuck, oh shit. So you can have non-discursive thoughts, they just don't stick to each other. I started laughing. Nobody could figure out why I was laughing since I'd sprained my knee on it. But it was because I noticed I'd had a non-discursive thought, and I thought that was hysterically funny. Anyway, next question.
Is common city, SIDDHI, different from experiencing the benefit of mantra? For example, if green Tara successfully helps me get a job, is that common city or is it something else?
No, because you didn't. That's green Tara. Common city is when a yogi suddenly finds himself able to fly. Of course, he's strongly advised not to fly over large bodies of water, especially if he can't swim. They wear off. That's a common city. Otherwise, it's not you, it's green Tara. Next.
Okay. Why can't we enjoy picking each leaf one by one, going back to the tree analogy, as we see them instead of trying to skin the entire tree at once?
Well, you can. You'll just never accomplish the goal of getting all the leaves off. But if you're having fun, you can play with that for a while. No harm. Just, you might die before you're done. And then Lord knows where you're going to land. One more.
Okay. What part of me experiences reincarnation?
It's called mind stream. It is the way a wave in the ocean seems to roll into the beach. From way out there, you can identify an individual wave, and it seems to be moving into the beach. But if you were to examine the molecules of water, you would find that no single molecule of water moves more than this far. It bumps the next molecule, which bumps the next molecule, which bumps the next molecule, creating the formation of a wave form. A wave is not a thing. It has no inherent existence. It is a matter created by the circumstances. As they roll into shore, there is no thing that goes from out there to the sand and the shore. A waveform reincarnates. There's nothing there. A set of experiences causes a set of experiences, 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 and it all thinks it's real and eternal. Oops. And I think on that, I'm done. Next month, more installments. I have actually put markers in my places, so we should be able to find them again. We're continuing with Saraha. Sala Gopashug. If you wish to practice along with us as we go through this text, for now, create as much Gewa in the universe as you possibly can. You will find the detailed instructions of creating Gewa in the 6 paramitas. I believe I have a teaching online on that, and so do many other teachers. That tells you how to create Gewa. Create lots of Gewa and sometimes sit on your cushion, relaxing and relaxing into stillness. If you are a Dzogchenpa, sit on your cushion and relax into Trekcha. Same method. There is no thing that's moving. And we'll do this again next month, giving you time to practice. Thank you, Nyando. And thank you all translators. Those of you who have enjoyed this in a language other than English, please keep your translators warm, fat, and happy by offering them dana for the efforts. You can find a button on my website for all of our translators. And thank you.